So yesterday was the most anticipated day during the NFL combine process, with the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs showing up to do the drills, especially for the wide receiving class. Definitely a deep class, probably the best draft classes in a while, and did live up to that, with Texas product Xavier Worthy breaking the 40-yard dash record, which we'll quickly switch over. You see the countless articles, I'm sure, on social media, maybe on TV, watching sports shows, talking about the historic record-breaking events previously held by John Ross, with Xavier Worthy clocking in with a 4.21 on his second run. His first run of the 40-yard dash was 4.25, and then the second one initially was 4.22, tying the record, but officially was changed to 4.21, which now he is the quote-unquote combine standards, the fastest player in history. So where's this going to lead to with that? For me, before this, I did view Xavier Worthy as a mid to late first-round pick because of just mostly just the speed and the deep playmaking ability. But also the counter to that is just the size. We'll get to the second of my worries with Xavier Worthy, and maybe people are kind of just going to be going a little too overboard with him breaking the record. No doubt it's fun to watch, and I'm the type of person that doesn't really put too much stock into the combine. I really don't care about too much of the results and so forth. I think the most important thing is just what you see on film and the interviews. Are there some drills that are meaningful? Absolutely. And I don't want to say the whole NFL combine process is a waste, but I think it's more so it's just, eye appealing just to see, like, analytics wise what they measure up to. And just like probably me and other people got suckered in seeing the 4.21 speed, and it's, immediately got hyped about it, especially for my Bills selecting it 20th overall. This could definitely be a spot he could land if he gets to that point. But let's talk about the process and his combine measurements and so forth. So he did measure it at 5'11", 165. His arm wingspan was 31 1/8. Hands were 8 3/4. Scoring down even further for the breakdown score, for the production score, he scored 81, which is fifth in the combine, or fifth for wide receiver ranks. Athleticism score 98, which is first, which shouldn't be shocked by that, and total score 88, which came third in the wide receiver group. Combine results, the one that obviously pops out, no doubt, is the record-breaking speed that we just talked about for the 40-yard dash, 4.21 speed. 10-yard split, 1.49. Vertical jump, 41. Broad jump, 10 feet, 11 inches. Did not do the 3-cone drill, 20-yard shuffle, bench press, and so forth. And kind of we'll get a little more into the overview and the strengths and weaknesses and breaking that down, and then we'll be switching over to my little bit worries about Xavier Worthy, and he does remind me of John Ross, which once we get into the comparisons, the measurements, and obviously the breaking down the drills and so forth, what they scored, it's as we look at John Ross's side of it, it's pretty scary in the bad way of how similar they are. But again, it's it's tough to figure out with these speed guys what's going to happen with them. But let's dive further into the results overview. Worthy's draft slotting could come down to the draft room debates of weighing his elite speed versus his thin frame. Worthy will find separation if allowed to explore versatility or across the hashes against man coverage, but he lacks the play strength and Worthy's quickness to defeat quality NFL press. His quick stride potential adds an element of danger over the top and should open wider windows for teammates to work into. He lacks the physical tools to catch when he contested and needs to prove that he can hold up to the more physical broad of football. Worthy is a niche prospect for teams looking to add a legit field stretcher, but areas of concern could create wider gaps between ceiling and floor. And we're going to quickly just break down his strengths and weaknesses, or just read a few. So no doubt the obvious ones is just the deep speed requires for additional defensive attention, creates space and loosens coverage for teammates. Let's see what else. Separation is inevitable when routes are asked less of him. Displayed ball tracking improvements against Alabama and Houston. Has a bend and agility to run post corners and whip routes effectively. There will be problems for defenses if he breaks a tackle after a catch. So this is kind of like the obvious standard for fast wide receivers. Elusive, can stretch down the field, stretch defenses, a deep threat. Pretty much the standard for receivers like him. But weaknesses too, similar to what we expect. Thin and lacking functional strength to fight through press. Needs to improve efficiency and quickness to get off the ball. Lack of hand strength to get gets him bullied in contested catches, takes reps off when he's not expecting the throw to come his way, fails to adjust his speed to ball placement consistently enough. So most of the overview is just his size. Of course, the other thing too is just commitment issues during plays, not really trying when it's not a play isn't designed to him or no, he's not going to him, and fails to kind of adjust his speed with that. So those are the downsides. But those last two, those are things you can fix. The more glaring issue is just his size. Like I said, if we go back to the top, he is 5'11", 165. So to put that comparison with, the last smaller frame wide receiver that came out was Devontae Smith. He was 6 foot 170, or at least around that 170, 172 range, and people were concerned with that if he was going to be able to last. So far through 3 seasons, he's done, I think, an excellent job, especially being the wide receiver 2 for the Eagles, back-to-back 1,000-yard season. So I think he's really proven to people that he can last the NFL. This one's a little bit more difficult. He's even lighter than that, being 165 and just 1 inch shorter than Devontae Smith. So it definitely is a little bit worrisome with that. So now we are going to break down my concerns and why it looks scary to John Ross. So the first one being is the combine measurement. So on the left, obviously, you see John Ross back in 2017 and Xavier Worthy right in this year's 2024 combine. So both for 5'11". Difference is John Ross measured at 188. Xavier Worthy is 165. That is a 23 pounds less than what John Ross was. And John Ross in his NFL career, even in college, had injury concerns and injury problems. So the fact that John Ross at 188 had problems with that, it definitely is scary to see 165 for Xavier Worthy and what he's going to be able to do with that. In terms of injury-wise, he did get better as his career went on. His rookie year, he only played 12 games. Sophomore year, he played 3, and this past season, he played 14. So it's trending upward of being durable. Offhand, I don't know for the games he missed because he just didn't play or because of injury, but in terms of games played, you'd like to see that increase each year. So in terms of college-wise, not too much of a worry for injury concerns. Arms, almost identical, 31 and a half, 31 and an eighth. Hands, 38 or 8 3/4. Hands, 8 3/4. So outside of the glaring issue with weight-wise, again, 23 pounds difference, overall, for the arms, hands, and the height, they match almost identical to that. Again, it's very worrisome to see 165 with John Ross being hurt constantly at 188. So next one is the combine results. What do we have with this? I guess quick mention. I apologize for the kind of like this high school or middle school type of slides, but I just wanted to. I didn't really have the best way to really show that put all the stats on the screen for you guys. So I apologize if it's kind of this cheap looking slide process, again, something from like high school or whatever. But again, this is probably the best thing I can come up with to really show you all the different stats wise for the combine. So getting back to the combine results, John Ross, 40-yard dash, 4.22, 10-yard split, 1.46, vertical jump, 37, broad jump, 11 feet, 1 inch, as opposed to Xavier Worthy, 40-yard speed, 4.21, 10-yard split, 1.49, vertical, 41 inch, and then broad jump, 10 feet, 11 inches. Again, you look at it, almost identical. 40-yard dash-wise, it's off by 0.1 seconds, or 0.01 seconds, 10-yard split, 0.03, vertical, which is surprising that Xavier Worthy had a higher jump than John Ross, so he did a little bit better there, and broad jump, pretty much similar. Scary part, too, is the production, athleticism, and total score. Production score was 82 for John Ross, which was 6th among all wide receivers in his draft class. Xavier Worthy was 81, or 5th in his draft class. Athleticism was 99, obviously 1st for John, and Worthy was 98, 1st as well for his draft class. And total score, 89, which ranks 2nd among wide receivers. Total score, 88, which was 3rd. So again, breaking down just the measurements and combine results is very scary that he's awfully similar to John Ross, just a lot, much lighter. I know that I do expect Worthy to put on a little bit more weight and not always be at 165. I don't know if he can ever push the 180 range. He could, maybe. You never know. Maybe it'd be mid to high 170s for his size, but overall, again, it's very worrisome to see such a very light wide receiver come to the NFL, even though we start to see a little bit more and more through the draft process, it definitely is a little bit concerning because you just don't know what you're going to get, but you're really just banking on just the building off that elite speed. You can't, kind of the same same thing people always say, you can't teach speed. And with Xavier Worthy being kind of combine standard wise the fastest player in history at 4.21, no doubt you're hoping for the absolute best of Tyreek Hill. And I kind of made this quickly my projected, for his career. His ceiling, no doubt, is Tyreek Hill. That's a no brainer. If he can get, if he can put on weight and he can stay healthy, no doubt land in a great situation like Tyreek Hill was. No doubt he has the capability of being an electrical playmaker out there, just as good as him. We see how Tyreek's done in his career. For me, probably the most electrifying player at the wide receiver position, or if not up there, is that one. Very elusive, very insane, insane elite speed, acceleration. Biggest one is probably the 13 seconds game where he just destroyed the Bills defense, and many other times. The other one was the Tampa Bay game where he had over 200 receiving yards in the first half. Someone like that is definitely the capability, the highest ceiling that he can do. I doubt he can get to that point, but that is the ceiling he can be to a similar build as Tyreek Hill. For the middle is actually newly player is Jalen Hyatt. Don't know what's gonna happen with him. I mean, again, a little bit taller, 6'1", in the 180 range for Hyatt, but just more so that in the middle is just a guy that's more special, isn't the playmaker that we believe he can be, where he's kind of just a specialty wide receiver. You have to kind of draw plays for him. He's not going to be the one that's going to make his own plays. I mean, we'll see with Hyatt, still relatively young, so we'll see if he can keep building off that. And that's, putting a label on Hyatt saying that's going to be his whole career, but just not the player that we expect for a first round pick. We expect Devontae Smith or whoever, late for, first round wide receivers to make plays, go out there and be legitimate high number 2 wide receivers or number 1 wide receivers, depending on where they are. So this could be the middle ground where Worthy just doesn't live up to the hype because of his 4-yard dash, because of the other things, again, size or lack of ball placement or just effort wise. That is definitely the middle ground for him. And the floor is, of course, we just talked about, is John Ross, who in his career didn't even surpass 1,000 total yards in his entire career and was constantly banged up, just was not able to get on the field and play. Had a decent second season. I think he definitely had a lot of touchdowns. I think he had like 6 or 7 touchdowns in the second year. Not a lot for receiving wise, but again, just couldn't get it going, injuries and so forth. That is definitely the bust potential with Xavier Worthy is John Ross. And that's why I really brought up the comparison with him, because it just immediately reminds me of that situation, no doubt. And I just don't know where he's going to go. Obviously, I don't expect him to be top 10 like John Ross was with 9th overall, where he jumped, skyrocketed onto the first round because of the speed solely for Cincinnati. I don't expect that the same where he's going to be top 10, but I do think he might rise up a little bit more, me taken earlier than people expect. And that's a little bit worrisome part of, that I'm concerned with, is just that he's going to be taken a little too high just because of the eye candy of the 4.21 speed and not really looking outside of the weight, the weight wise, the strength and so forth to really go against the top NFL corners. That is my concern, but no doubt he is definitely going to be a polarizing pick. He's definitely going to be anticipated where he's going to go. Is he going to go high? Is he going to go later? I know obviously the dream scenario is for, some people say Kansas City to get another Tyreek Hill in him, but again, I think he's going to be definitely one of the biggest wild cards in this NFL draft to see where he goes. How high does he go? Because of that 4.21, how high does that carry him? Again, even with the 4.21 speed, I think maybe he stays somewhere in the mid first round range. Well, maybe I'd be a little bit surprised if he does fall to late, but I think a team's just gonna be a little bit too obsessed with that 4.21 speed and take the shot at him. But that's kind of my thoughts on Xavier Worthy. Again, he holds the NFL record for the 40-yard dash at 4.21, officially breaking that. Again, last one was John Ross in 2017, so we'll see what happens in late April where he goes.